David asked over on LinkedIn, how can we be more innovative and creative in the evidence we collect in making decisions? I love this question, David, because I think educators are some of the most creative and innovative professionals out there. And one of my life's passions is helping educators capture their innovations and share them with the world. So this question is right up my alley. Hi, friends. I'm Matthew Courtney, and I help schools help kids. And here we talk all about evidence-informed school improvement. So if you're into that, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow from wherever you're watching, and come be a part of our community of improvers. All right, let's get into David's question with tip number one. Set clear objectives. Whenever you're trying a new way of doing something, it is so important that we set clear and measurable objectives for our project. This is a vital step because if we don't set those clear, measurable objectives up front, it won't matter what kind of data we collect along the way because we won't be able to answer any questions on the back end. We want to set a clear objective that if we do X, then Y will happen. And if we do Z, then we'll start again at A. And that helps us to frame our data collection processes so that as we innovate, as we work creatively, we can capture information in the right way to be able to prove that our interventions, that our brilliant ideas are working out in the field. Next, we want to create a data collection plan. As you roll out your innovations, we want to be really intentional about how we collect our data. And the only way to do that is to establish a plan right up front that we can run with and work with throughout our implementation period. So be really thoughtful about what kinds of data you want to collect and at what points along the way you want to collect those data. I also want you to expand your mind about what kinds of data you're collecting. You're an innovator, you're creative. Apply that creative mind to your data. Let's look beyond just student assessment data, and let's think about engagement data, feedback data, parent data, community data, attendance data, and all the different sources of data that we could really look at to know if our intervention is making a difference. Use a variety of assessment tools. Different types of assessment tools provide different kinds of data and different kinds of information. And so we want to be really intentional to make sure that we're using a variety of assessment tools that allow us to get a full picture of how our intervention is impacting student outcomes. Of course, you've identified a measurable outcome, and so you want an assessment tool tied to that outcome. But we also want to think about other unintended consequences, other kinds of outcomes that we might want to assess through our assessment tools. Again, think beyond your standardized assessments here. Standardized assessments are great. They have a place, but only if we use the right assessment for the right reason. And I find that a lot of us get lost in that shuffle. Really think critically. Is this assessment tool the right tool to answer the questions that we have? Is this standardized assessment designed to capture the data in the time period and in the way that we're doing here in our intervention? If it's not, pick a better tool. I also want to encourage you to look beyond testing data, beyond that formal data that we're so used to working with. When you're exploring your own innovations and creations, think about student work as a data sample. Think about peer observation as a data sample. Think about qualitative interviewing as a data collecting technique. And using all of these together, you're going to have a much deeper understanding of the long-term impact of your intervention. If your measurable outcome is related to student achievement, you should probably do a pre and post assessment. We all know about pre and post assessments. This is when you give students an assessment before a lesson or a unit and a similar assessment or the same assessment at the end of the unit. And then we compare to see how much the kiddos learned throughout our instruction. Pre and post assessments are not new. They're something we're all very comfortable with, and they should be embedded in your innovation assessment plan. As you're thinking about the student outcomes and those academic outcomes of your innovation, as you're building that plan, build in a pre and post test process. Now, my experience as a consultant working with schools, where most people lose it here is in the analysis of the pre and post assessment. And so I have a tool for you. If you go to www.matthewbcourtney.com Timecodes.com/repository, you will find a pretest post-test analysis tool. This tool is designed to allow you to simply upload your spreadsheet and instantly report out on your pretest post-test assessment. It does all the math for you, so you don't have to do a single thing. It even chooses the right kinds of statistical procedures to perform on your data based on the data that you've uploaded. So check it out. It's going to save you a ton of time. Don't forget about student feedback. It's 2023. Our students' voices are louder than they've ever been before. We need to embrace student voice as we assess the impact of our innovations and of our creative assignments. Talk with your students and find ways to solicit valuable feedback from them, and really consider that. Put that student voice data that you've collected up at the same level as your standardized assessment data, as your teacher-created data, all the other forms of data that you collected. Consider it as a serious data point and allow it to inform the way your innovation shapes and changes in the future. Finally, don't forget to reflect and adapt. One common pitfall that I see a lot of education innovators fall into is that they love their innovation so much that they refuse to change it based on the data that comes out at the end. A true innovator who's being really thoughtful, who's being an evidence-informed educator, takes that data that they've collected along the way, looks and considers the measurable outcomes that they set at the beginning of their process, and reflects and adapts their innovation for round two. I like to use the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle to do this, the PDSA cycle, where we plan, we perform our intervention, we study it, and we make changes and we do it again. This kind of innovative studying cycle allows us not only to build new innovations, but to study them and refine them so that they become true magic for our kiddos. David, thanks for asking your question. I hope this video was insightful and helpful to you. If you're watching today and you have a question you'd like me to answer in a future video, drop it below in the comments and I'll add it to the queue. See you next time. If you need help with evidence-based decision-making in your school, check out my Evidence-Empowered Educator Coaching Program at www.matthewbcourtney.com/coaching.